A special welcome to Anna Pinto, who's the anchor for this program, and Chitra Vishwanath, who will speak about Didi. This is a kind of a coming together of many things. I mean, this program was planned earlier, a few months ago, and basically to help educators to highlight the possibilities of building or renovating schools to flow with the pedagogy rather than be stuck in rigid structures that do not reflect the style or the substance of education that we're trying to uh, kind of bring into our schools, and also doesn't kind of reflect the work that we are doing with children, the young of our human species. So this program is made, kind of hoping to open up windows for educators, teachers, parents to see how structures can be different. And of course, we have now many architects with us, so bringing them together. Having fortunately worked in many beautiful buildings and also converted schools from old houses, etc., I wanted to enable the architects and the educators to look at the possibility of creating spaces, indoor, outdoor, and everything in between, so that for schools, learning centers, or learning organizations to be kind of alive and open to such happenings in the environment. And buildings and forms, as we all know, influence our behavior and create avenues for the way we even talk and move. I do not have to elaborate on that here. I will talk a bit about our experience of building for a pedagogy when I was the principal of Abacus School in Chennai, uh, where we saw the child as active, as a constructor of their own backpack of knowledge, and also where they construct themselves as a human being as they interact with their larger environment. When we were planning the building for Abacus in Madras in the 80s, we approached Laurie Baker. I had met him earlier many and seen many of his buildings done around in Trivandrum and taken around by one of the architects at that time who was working with him. I felt at that time, and when we approached him for Abacus too, that his style may not kind of go with the school that we were thinking of, because quite a lot of darkness was there in his buildings, some of his structures. But when we spoke to him, he was eager, and we were honored in turn that he was happy to work on a school like this. And he was one of the few architects who wanted to listen, not only to us, his clients, but also to the teachers and the children. He came and sat in our classrooms to observe the classroom and how it functioned. He spoke to our teachers. We also made the children plan a school that they wanted, and he considered them seriously. And the only thing we told him in our when we started off was that we don't want corridors for the school, because we were in an old building at that time in Adyar, and the building did not have corridors. And the children, as they walked to the toilet or went down to the garden, etc., they bumped into each other, had a chat, and that was a very nice kind of environment because there was a little bit of a courtyard kind of a place in the middle. And we felt that a corridor is, where all the children are kind of lined up and they're facing the world with not an interaction between themselves. So that was the only kind of brief that we gave him. And then we worked wonderfully together to bring Abacus up on the outskirts of Chennai at that time, but now it's part of it. So I thank you all, teachers, educators, architects, for being here. And to bring this together, we invited Anna to highlight this crossing between architecture and pedagogy. She had come to India after many letters that we exchanged to IDEC in 2018. She's originally from Colombia and now living in Paris. And some of you may have seen her at the IDEC International Democratic Education Conference, which was held in Bangalore in 2018. A little bit about Anna. Hope she talks more about herself after this. Anna Pinto practices design in buildings, installations, games, everything around education and children excites her. With the conscious application of current pedagogies and research around the brain and education at the crossroads of genres through a critical enthusiasm, she imagines conditions and creates situations to inhabit the complexity of the world. She has invested in the search of a new way of inhabiting the educational space where she considers as not only possible but necessary. In her view, the accuracy of a project results from knowing how to deal with what exists here and now, from knowing how to tell new stories with the present that is always to be explored and the better fit into it. She holds a degree, Anna, in architecture from Barcelona. She has a diploma in landscape architecture from Paris, and she has also an elementary training program. She is the elementary directress from the center in Palau. She has rich experience and knowledge of over 25 years in the field of architecture, and her area of expertise are architecture, education, and the generalities. She's director of the firm AP Architecture in France from 2011 onwards. Welcome, Anna, and we're looking very forward to your presentation. I would like to also talk today because I said it's a coming together of many things. It's sad that Didi Contractor passed away recently on the 5th of July. She was very much part of my life as a young adult in the late 70s before she moved to Andhra. She was a friend of the family, and I was fortunate to meet her when she was between Bombay, Rishi Valley, and finding a place to live. In that zone, she visited us many times and then decided to live in our family cottage in Ooty for a while. That's the cottage that is being shown here. I thought it was just for a few months, but when I met her 2, 3 years ago, she said it was for a year that she stayed there. And that cottage gave her solace and the energy to begin anew. Incidentally, the cottage built in the old style was made of mud, and she said that at that time it was wonderfully suitable and comfortable in all kinds of weather. I'm glad that Didi was part of my life. We did many things together, and I was usually her driver and companion when she was in Madras. We baked ragi bread, she casted our horoscope charts, and on one trip, when she was not too well, I had to pick her up from an ashram on the outskirts of Chennai and take her to a hospital directly, where she needed some minor surgery. She, of course, Didi had an opinion about everything and made discussions possible and lively. On the other hand, she also had the patience and the interest to listen to youngsters and to ask questions of them. I'm grateful, Didi, for her work and her life in India and for touching so many people's lives in a way that it matters, even more so now. Thank you, Didi, and thank you all for being here to take her work forward. Chitra Vishwanath will speak now about Didi's work, and then we will hand it over to Anna. Chitra, as some of you may know, when I met Didi for 2, 3 years ago, when I said, who else is there who can build, like you? And I'm from Bangalore, so she said, why don't you meet Chitra? And when I came back, I promptly met her. Chitra is trained as an architect, and she has a wonderful team in Bangalore. The firm is called Biome Environmental Solutions. The firm tries to go beyond creating wonderful spaces to exploring the possibility of being built as part of an ecosystem. She has designed and implemented hundreds of real estate developments, residences, institutions, and resorts, guided by ecological principles, integrating sound, water, energy, and using land use thinking into their designs. Welcome, Chitra, and like you to speak a little about Didi.
Thank you, Amukta. Hello, Anna, and the team here. It's lovely. I'm looking forward to listening to Anna to learn more about how to design classrooms. Yeah. And so, here for me, Didi was a wise and highly evolved contemporary colleague. I would say that. What I learned from, besides architecture, usually has been life skills. A lesson in how to constantly look ahead, assimilate, and evolve. Didi started her architectural practice at the age of 65. At the age of 60. Most of us begin architectural practice at the age of 24, 25, as soon as we have finished studying. She most quietly and assiduously created a revolution in architecture, and it has been a quiet one. It's not something which has been advertised a lot, no, because she was learning from what was happening on the ground. She was learning the practices of vernacular architecture. Now, it's not enough to see the vernacular architecture and just build accordingly. You need to evolve it. You need to evolve it for the contemporary needs. What are the contemporary needs which are so different from the vernacular needs? We live huge differently. We need more light within, whereas the vernacular homes wouldn't need light. And how do you bring in light without having to make it cooler? Is something which involved her all the time. And she worked with roofs. She made these beautiful roofs. It's like twisting a paper and creating these roofs from where you could get light at different times of the day, but the room is always lit and beautiful. Okay, as architects, we love light, so we always talk about it. She also created a huge base for young architects who could go to her, learn from her, and not follow the usual beaten path. They become stronger and came out and have done amazing work, and they become very strong individuals. They either worked or interned under her. I was most impressed by her amalgamating vernacular architecture to the contemporary needs of the interior spaces. Like I talked about light, talk about ventilation. And in Sambhavna, to me, the classrooms, which are usually introverted spaces and which were also in her designs, they're made magical by the way that light traveled inside it and the way in a classroom she framed the various views. So I don't have more to say. This is a kind of an eulogy, but I don't want to be talking about the person. For me, I want to be talking about the architecture too. So thank you very much, Amukta. I don't want to take more time, and I'm looking forward to the session. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Chitra, so much for bringing her work alive.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anna, over to you.
Yeah, perfect.
Yes.
Can everybody hear me? It's that working well?
Yes.
Okay, super. So I'm so happy to be here and being somehow in India, even in the distance. It's such a pleasure. Thank you, Amukta, for the invitation. So we're going to go right away in the subject. We're going to talk about the way I see architecture and the way I see spaces and the way that works for me. Just give me a little moment so I can, normally I can. Okay, so let it go. It's kind of morning in Paris, so everything is like talking to you like if you were in Paris. But I try to adapt because, you know, I know that you're not all in Paris, and maybe some of you are in other places. Not everybody's in India. So today, this morning, I wanted to talk about the problem of the environment. What is the point of view of children and their development? How do we work spaces so they can work with the children? When we educate, we kind of think of children and education. So what method are we going to use to educate them? But we never think that it's like a tree chair that has 3 legs. And the third one for me is the space. Without the space and the way it works and the way it interacts with people, you cannot take the education all the way to its last goal, that is changing the way we live in this world, in this planet. Today we have a lot of contributions in neuroscience and cognitive psychology, so I think it's very important to us to go back and look at that and try to take the knowledge in that science and put it inside the way we build and we think about spaces for kids. So let's start. What is the construction of or for education? So we're going to go to the brain. We're going to go and check out the brain, see what happens to the brain. And what happened with this presentation? Part of it is in Spanish. Did I make a mistake? No. This is a way of keeping your attention with me. When I give you everything in English, all of you are going to be like, yeah, that's the way it is. That's the way it works. But when I give you in a place or in something that go out from what you're waiting, that opens your brain. It's now you're all like, how can we translate that? Your brain is trying to work the fact that I did words in Spanish, that I wrote words in Spanish. So, ¿cómo impacta la pedagogía al cerebro? How pedagogy can affect the brain. What happens in the brain? How that affects the brain, how the way we teach children can shape the brain, and how is the brain shaped in the end. Everyone, you know, this is a baby, no problem. And all of you can more or less tell me the age of this baby. And number one, he's maybe 6-7 months old, and he's walking. He can be like 1 year, year and a half. Okay. Nobody can tell me the exact age, but everybody knows more or less how old is he. How do you know that? Because we all know their stage in the development of babies. We all know that they have things that they can do between windows. Their body are made so they can like act some ways. Okay, why is that? Because they have a spinal cord, and we all know that in order to be born, the spine has to be flexible, like in the first one. It has to curve. That's why babies cannot walk. Nobody is going to ask a 3 months old baby to walk. Okay? We know he cannot do it. We know he's going to do it sooner or later, between 1 year, 9 months, and 15 months, more or less. And the same way, nobody is going to ask a 4-year-old children to wear 29 sizes shoes. I think it's an 11 in India. That way, nobody is going to ask a baby to talk when he's 6, or to talk 6 months, or to talk when we know their windows. We're waiting, and we have to wait. We know that there is physical things that have to wait. That's the way the body works. Okay? Now, what I'm going to try to do is convince you that the same way the body works, the brain works. Okay? That the same, that you cannot force things inside the children, and that you have to give them their environment so they can grow. Okay? The physical environment can do a lot. The same way, nobody's going to try to put shoes that are smaller, or maybe they will. And what happens? This is like Chinese ladies' shoes. They put smaller shoes in their feet, and they had smaller feet. The feet didn't grow. So can you imagine what the environment can do to yourself, can do to others, and can do to babies that have brains that are very, very, that are growing. These physical variations have the right to exist. That's the way it is. It's a process. It's a process of self-reflection and control. Okay, we have to learn to regulate our emotions. The brain has to mature. Nobody's gonna ask a 1-year-old to read. Maybe we have babies that can read very early in time, but nobody is going to force a baby to read. It's an inner maturation that doesn't belong to us. Okay, there's a phone that's ringing. So we do have to adapt to the environment. What happened? Where did the places we're learning come from? So everybody's gonna laugh about this image. We find it so absurd today. It's like nobody's gonna expect that today. We find that our model is so past all of that. Despite I'm being in Paris and you've been in India or somewhere else, I'm sure that you apply a model in education that's not far away from this one. We use the model that comes from the Industrial Revolution and the Enlightenment, and that's what we think is the modern pedagogy. And we kept, even though some of us are thinking about how to teach children in other ways, the environments have stayed the same one. So this is an old class in France, okay? Somehow you can see that it's kind of the same. He doesn't have this tick anymore, but it's kind of the same, isn't it? You're gonna tell me, Anna, but that's an old one. Okay, a new one. What changed? They just have computers. Is it the same? Yeah, it's the same one. So I'll give you a second, because I think it's longer for you. So nothing changed between this one and the last one. 200 years ago, we had the same spaces. And we were waiting for the same things on kids. What about in India? So I found in the internet very nice pictures of kids. Very lovely. But what's my problem is that it's the same form of space organization. Nothing has changed. They're sitting on the floor. Maybe that's better. But the way we're learning is the same. And everybody knows, what does that come from? That's not new for us. It comes from the fact that we wanted to do factories and create people that were capable of working in factories, and that they could do work that had this kind of form. Okay? And this idea is inspired from the panopticon, the prisons. And I'm not going to show you commercial centers, malls, because it's just that. Okay, this is a modern one. So we got inspired of control and production to build our schools. And even though we're thinking about what are we giving to children, we have not changed a iota what the places we are using to conceive that. Not as much of the other two forms of education. I'm a fan of Maria Montessori. I love her. I think she's just incredible. So when you go and check out her work, you can see that she was really adapting. And this is really not the same way of looking at education. I'm going too fast. I think you cannot see. Yeah, that's the one, Maria Montessori. So this is quite the only photo that you can find. They're almost all of them from Montessori schools where the teacher is not in the center. She's not given the knowledge. They are getting the knowledge. Kids are getting the knowledge. It's a cognitive process that is somewhere else. You're constructed the inner person, okay? What is sustainable for us today in the world we live in and the one we're going to have for tomorrow? In fact, we know that humans have the inner capacity of learning. We must, as educational people, as architects that construct schools, observe intelligence, the way it develops itself. We must avoid interfering with that process. Okay, this is a nature process. In other communities, we know that people learn. In savannah people, men and women, know a lot of things. How many plants are you capable of recognizing of your environment? These people are capable of recognizing more than 1,000 plants. Yes, more than that. And how many birds? The clouds. Can you know it's going to rain tomorrow? They can do all of that and more. Okay, so they were capable of learning. So now you're going to maybe think, but they didn't construct a rocket to go to the moon. No, but maybe they're happier than us. I don't know. Anyway, through our eyes, we receive information and we make relationships with things. I'm sorry, I think we have a problem with is everybody hearing me okay?
Yeah, okay. If
Perfect.
possible,
So I got a little message that somebody was not hearing me. Okay, perfect. Okay, so all the information we get it. Thank you, everybody. So we get it through the eyes. It's very difficult Zoom, I think, for you and for me, because I love to have the input of the way you're getting all this information, and I cannot because everybody's behind the screen. But it's so fun to be capable of doing this, and that you're somewhere else and that I'm sitting in my home with my dogs. So it's kind of between the two of them. I like this, and I'm sad because I love to see people and see the way they interact, if they smile or if they're having fun or not. Anyway, we go back to the eye. So eyes has taken, gave us the first impression of the way the world is. Okay, it's one of the first organs in the development of the babies that's going to work. Okay, because it gives them inside of the mother how they can eat. we love babies. When you see a baby, we're all like, oh, they're so cute and blah, blah. And it's very interesting because this kind of anatomy, the way the baby is made, is the same one. This relationship between the eyes, the mouth, the little nose is the same that animals as the panda have. And it's the same as the nipples has, because there are places that are supposed to attract, okay? Babies need to see the nipples so they can feed themselves. We need to love babies because we need to care for them. So this is a beautiful baby. You can see the big eyes, tiny nose, tiny mouth. And this is a panda baby. Now you can see it. And you can see the way it works. We like big eyes. That's what mangas and Japanese animation works so well. So when we think about constructing, when we think about places, we do need to think about the colors we put in. How are colors affecting our brain? It's very interesting because we don't do a lot of experimentation with human beings. That's not very allowed, and I'm happy it's that way. But they did something very, very funny in a prison in England, in Great Britain, sorry. They painted in pink all the prison. And what happened? So this is a real picture of the experiment. In conclusion, the prisoners were calmer, less violent, more willing to talk. Okay. And here I present to you the Baker Miller pink. This is the pink they use. So the people that did this experiment created somehow this pink that is supposed to be a pink that has this. That's going to help us be calmer as in the prison. Okay. But what happened if it's pink? What happened if you put yellow? So yellow, in the contrary, is known to be make babies cry more. When they put yellow blankets in to babies, they're gonna cry more, a lot more than if you put a pink one or a blue one. So you want to avoid yellow in your schools. What happens? Why is this? So we know that the eyes is made to see color. Okay, we have what's called I forgot the word in English, bâtonnets in French, that are little like sticks that can capture the color. You can see them very well in this picture. Okay, and we evolve to see red color. Okay, why do we want to see red color? Because red food has more sugar, and we want to eat sugar. Okay, so our attention is driven to red. Okay, so can someone tell me what does red does in our brain? What happens if I put red in school? Are we going to be calmer if I put red? Brightness. Very good. Yeah. What else? Aggressive, stimulation, anger. Yeah. I love to do this experiment. I couldn't do it with you guys because I was not with you in person. But when I do conference, I try to put something red because red is the color of leaders. Think about it. All the presidents have something red in their dressing because red is the color of power. When you're dressed in red, you know who you are. people think you know more. You're like, everybody can trust you. The red was in Chinese. The red was the color of the emperor. Okay, so where are spaces in all of this? What are the needs of children? So I love this image. Look at the first one. That's internet. That's all the connections, the ones that we have right now, all the connection around the world in the internet. Our brain, yours and mine, because I think nobody younger than 12 is with us, as the second one. That's the second one. 3 times more than the internet. 3 times more. Can you imagine that? Okay. What about an infant? Less than 12. 10 times more. 10 times more. Okay. What happens between them and us? When you get to adolescence, you have to cut because all those little roads consume a lot of energy. But what's that supposed to mean? What's the effect of that? They are slower. It's like taking tiny roads, village roads, to go somewhere. You don't take the highway. We take the highway. They take the small roads. So everybody, if they're in schools, if they had children, they have been through that. You have to tell them 10 times so they can get the message. You're like, please do this. And you think they're doing it on purpose. Not at all. It's just that their brain works in another way. So in a brain that has that much of connections, you want to give a lot of information. You want to give spaces that let them construct the way they want to live inside of them. Okay, that can be manipulated, that can be transformed, because you and me, we don't know what tomorrow is going to be made of. So we can give them all their chances to build a better tomorrow. More than 1 million new connections per second between 0 birth and 6 years. And at 14, they come back to normal. They're like us. Or they lose a lot of their brain, I think. How many hours do we spend at school? It depends on the country, but they're more or less 13,000 hours. And we know that our connections are not end. It's not because we're all that we don't make more interconnections. They're creation all the way to our 30s and over that. So can you imagine how the environment can affect us and how the environment can affect children? Okay, so this is the basis. I gave you the seeds. Now what we're going to see, how can the plants, they're going to grow from these seeds. Okay, this is our first project. This is a project we did that I'm going to show you. This is a project that we did for India, for a school in India, that was never construct. That's not the subject here. And what we were trying to do, even if this picture is very nice, she's very pretty, everybody seems very engaged in the conversation and whatever, we can feel that this is a traditional working space or learning space. There's nothing new about it. She's standing in front of the group, a big window, a lot of light. Okay, and even in less traditional learning spaces, this one shows you a multi-seating space in Canada. Even in this kind of spaces, I'll wait a little bit because I think you cannot see it. There you go. Even in this kind of spaces where we are supposed to have more interactive way of learning, they can see it here in this first in the green and purple chairs. They have different kinds of learning environments. What is the form of this classroom? Is this a circle? Is it round? Is it a square? A rectangle? Yeah, probably more like that. So somehow it's still a traditional way. So look at the way things are put in this space. They tend to be more like in a traditional school, even though they were thinking about it and they were trying to do something new and something else. Okay, so with this in mind, what did we try to do? Because like in Montessori education, you don't want to change everything in once because that's going to be shocking for everybody. You have to put little new things that you put in the way you modify the environment, and you see how it works. Okay, it's never easy to do that. So the idea with this project was to try to mix up traditional materials, building something that looked more like a forest, okay, more open with playing spaces that could be more interacting with the learning spaces, and to totally change the way the space itself was constructed. Okay. We got inspired for all the bamboo construction, wood constructions that they have that you have in India or that they have in India. I'm coming from Colombia, and we have a lot of brick construction. So I think it's a very nice way of thinking of architecture. And with all of this in mind, so I'll give you a little second so you can see it. The idea is, how can you use wood, brick? How can you use the ceilings to open the spaces? Okay. We try to, how can you change the main point of view? All the learning spaces are always focused in the center. Is the center in the center of the room? Is it in the front of the room? Is that changing the way we think about the space, the way we interact with the space, the way we learn? So inspiring ourselves of a lot of works, there's a lot of architecture and traditional constructions, we thought we can use another way of lighting the space, like in the one that you have in the middle. If lights come from the sky, then you can think in another way of the way you get inside the space. There's no back and forth. There's no, that's the center place. And if you do it 2 times, you tend to tie up to build your space so it can light up to the sky. And you, so we can see the next slide. And you construct it so it doesn't have, so you can see it here, doesn't have one only possible place to be, because this square where the light comes from and all the walls, okay, they don't let me find a center. It's a moving space. So I'm going to try to construct it in a moving way. When I try to put chairs, and so we develop new kind of chairs and tables, so they could go. And these chairs that you're seeing right there, you can never put them one side of another one. Okay, so I'll show you the next one. Give you 2 seconds so you can see it. So with this kind of chairs, what happened with this kind of tables, sorry, is that when you put them together, that's a little drawing down, is that you never have lines, you never have circles, you always have forms that are moving, that are changing. So that lets you create a space that is more dynamic. You have like little flowers. You can create a center table. You have line, and even if you create a center table, because this space is not square, you tend less to think about it as the center place of knowledge. So that changes the way the adults think about the way they can pass the knowledge to the kids. Okay, so this is more or less the way that we imagine. That's the next one. So I'll let you, okay, knowing now you can see it. This is the way we imagine it could work. So you could have like little units that you can construct the ones beside the other ones. And the school could grow in time, in necessity, be smaller, bigger, okay? So you can see it, and the one that has the black, that's color in black, sorry. You can see that you have 1, 2, 3, 5. You can put them like little units, like little atoms. And then you can put more open spaces that could look to the nature, that could interact with this, with the rooms of the school, the more formal rooms of the school, and have patios and open working spaces with kids could play or work. Okay, for the last one, that's all the ways that you could work with that kind of form. I'm not telling you that this is a solution. It's just trying to think out of the box. Maybe this is an awful solution. Maybe it's not going to work. But what we really have to think about is that the way we construct the spaces, the way we think about how it interacts with kids, with all the connections they have in their brains, we really have to have a reflection of that. We really have to think about it. It's just not, oh yeah, that's the way it is. Okay. So next, so this is the India project. Maybe we can do a little stop here. And if people have questions about this one, things they want to know. No questions? Oh, super. Somebody's going to talk to me. That's so cool. Hi. Hello.
Yeah.
Good morning.
You want to take some questions now, Anna?
Yeah, just to talk about this one, because maybe we can take a bigger discussion at the end, but it's just because people are going to tend to forget, and it's very interesting. That's a way of cutting the discussion. It's like putting words in Spanish in the text.
Yes, Shubhadra.
Hi, Anna. I just wanted to know, you put the rangoli, which is a very Indian traditional pattern.
Yeah.
Does it have any significance of it being in a specific space, or is it something, because we know that we usually do it as a part of our celebration or as a part of an entry to the building? Is there anything, beyond that which goes well? Because I think, of course, we're teaching a lot of, I see it as teaching math, teaching art, teaching a lot of patterns. It's more like an exercise for the kids also. But is there something else you can throw some light on?
Yeah, we try to do like funny stuff, like oral constructions. We do a lot of furniture, and all our furniture is cut in the golden number. Nobody knows it. The construction is always telling me, but Anna, I cannot put 21. It's 20. Do it 20 or 25, 21. Why do you want to put 21? 2150, 27. Why do you have all those numbers? Because we try to put inside the buildings natural forms of geometry that can inspire us. And we found that rangolis are so creative. It's like a mind opener. You know what I mean? So we never went more than this part of the project. It's just an idea. And maybe if we can take this pressure farther away, maybe the floors can be like spaces which you can draw. Why not? You know what I mean? What we were thinking is you have to inspire yourself of natural forms and cultural forms that can give kids a way of feeling inside their culture and understanding the world. Okay? Is that clear enough?
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you, Anna.
You're welcome.
Hi, Anna.
Okay.
I had a question.
Yeah, please.
Can I ask you a question?
I have two persons that are
What do you
talking
think-
at the same time.
Just
Oh,
wait
sorry.
a minute. We'll go in line. Yeah. Yes.
Can I?
I can hear you.
Okay. All right. I'm Garima. I had a question that it was lovely when you told that, okay, there should be open spaces. And yes, I agree with the fact that it'll look lovely and it'll be very nice for children. What about schools? I'll be very happy in case if you could just share something that there are certain schools which will have space constraint. So considering the space constraints that we have in the existing schools, can you please suggest something which can, help build those kind of beautiful spaces for children?
Yeah, I love your question. Thank you for asking it. You are doing the perfect introduction for the next school. Because, the idea is to construct this space from zero. But most of us are face of all buildings, are educational buildings that work that way. So how can we transform them so they can adapt more for kids? So the next project is for you. Okay. Because it's a project that is built inside a Parisian building from the 17th.
Okay.
Okay, so I have a lot of questions in the chat.
Yeah. Paz next. And Anna,
Yes.
Paz.
Thank you, Mukta. Thank you so much, Anna. I'm sure we will meet each other in France because in previous life I was a land planner, aménageur.
Okay.
Voilà, je suis ingénieur aménagement du territoire. Sorry. I agree completely. Namaste. I agree completely what all you said about geometrical aspect, and sacred geometry is so important in this world, and golden number as well. I have one question about, and you say something very interesting about village. So you are making a conception of a school like a village. Because a village is a school. A village is a school. I live in a small village for 5 years, and it was a very big school for me and for them also probably. Anyway, my question is, what about circle? Because I will just finish about that. I have seen something amazing. It's a small village in cycle, and every piece. Every house is like an egg, and on the top it's completely open, so all the light is coming inside, but it's not in this planet probably. And the dome is in a special raw material like plasma. So my question is, there is no so much cycle in your school. Can you tell me why?
This one was not supposed to be a circle because the problem, the thing with circle is that you cannot combine them. And the idea, what the person that called us to do this project, he wanted to have combining units. Okay, so circles are less good to do that. Okay. But there is research telling us that circles work very, very well in learning spaces. Kids tend to be more tranquil. They learn better. They're more calm. So how can we introduce that in schools? Maybe next sample, the one that we did in Paris, can help us have an insight of that.
Because
I have one more question.
Life Flowers is working like cycle.
Yeah.
Paz, shall we continue with another speaker question? another question?
I think I have
Sure.
seen some of them in the
Yeah.
chat. It's just that
Yeah.
I'm not fast enough.
Can I ask a
Yeah,
question?
Dr. Anantram.
Please.
Yes, thanks. Taking a lesson from nature, where the hexagon is considered the most economical way of arranging a space, do you think
Yeah.
that would be an alternative? Because what I see in most of your drawings and designs, you're using a four-sided structure, even though it's not a rectangle. I think it's a rhomboid, if I'm right.
It's a rhomboid. Yeah.
Trapezium.
Trapezoid.
That's right.
Trapezoid.
Ah, good.
Trapezoid.
Perfect.
Trapezoid. That's right.
Trapezoid.
The bone,
Wow.
the bone here is called the trapezoid. The bone here,
Yeah.
the trapezoid. That's what a bone here is called. Okay. And what do you think about the hexagon to be used as an alternative?
Yeah, this example is just one example.
Okay.
It's not all my constructions. It's just one building that we propose in India. The thing with hexagons, I love them because we construct with hexagon. A lot of birds have construction with hexagon. Nature does hexagon naturally, if I can say it. It has been used a lot. Okay, I have a lot of examples of people using hexagon to construct. And the idea was thinking out of the box. What are new forms that we can use that are not that much used? So we can just adapt them. And hexagon creates more circle spaces. They can merge very nicely together, but they don't create this... hexagon are very, you can do like a tapis. All of us, I am losing my English. I speak too much in French in my life. You can do like all of its surface in hexagons. With this one, you cannot do that. So you're forced of thinking new ways of arranging them. Do I make clear of myself?
Yeah.
Hexagons, you can really make a whole pattern only in hexagons. With this one, you're going to do that. You cannot do that. So you are always going to have empty spaces that you're going to have to think about them. Okay? But I love hexagons. I think they work beautifully. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Appreciate your talk and experience and your sharing of your experience with us. Thank you very much.
Shreya can go next, Anna. Shreya has a question in the chat. Yes.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Yes.
And then we can do one more and then we can go to the next project.
Yes. Yeah.
Super.
Shreya, you want to go? Shreya Sadhan?
Yes, ma'am. So my question is related to the digitization of the schools, as in the whole approach of designing a school would change if we were thinking about the students studying on tablets and something like that. And also the footprint of the school would increase in terms of energy. So what's your take on digitization of education and using technology in education?
Okay, so that's a difficult one. Why? Because I think that it's like the picture I show you with the school is a traditional form and all they have is computers. That's the impression I have with new schools and introduction of technology inside of schools. We're just replacing books for tablets. Is that the way it's going to be? Is that the way we wanted it to be? If it's going to come inside schools, and it's probably gonna, we really have to control it and give it the place we wanted it to have. Okay? I have the impression it's just controlling us and it's just a parent's demand because they think we have to give children that knowledge so they can succeed in life. So is that really going to change the way we're going to construct our school? It hasn't. It hasn't, because children are behind their tablets in lines looking to a teacher. Even if we did a project that I like a lot to a lab school. I don't know if you guys know the lab schools. The lab schools are supposed to be laboratory schools that are inside faculties. So they have a lot of research that go inside of them. And one of the problems is we put digital boards. That's supposed to be technology, isn't it? But it's just replacing the board. It's easier, it's nicer. You can put videos, you can take pictures of your lesson and send it to the kids, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I know. But is that the reflections we want to have? In the sense that if we use it, we have to assume the way we're going to use it. So we have to think about the way we're using it. And that's a whole new discussion. How are we going to use that? And is that knowledge really what they need for the world that's coming to us? I don't know. It's a very good nice. It's a very good question, because it's a very hard point. How do you mix that? I don't know. I think they. I don't know the way it works in India, but here in Paris, all the kids that go to the private schools, to the good schools, they have so many access to technology in their homes that they don't need it in school. But that's the way it works here. I don't know the way it works in India. And they probably, we have to adapt the way we construct our spaces, but we have to think about the way we're going to put it inside. Okay.
Thank you for your take, ma'am. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
So
can I ask one question?
Sweta Kumari?
Yeah, please. Yeah, please.
Yeah. Is that Sweta Kumari?
Sukanya.
Afterwards, Sukanya, Sweta's waiting.
Okay.
Yeah. Sweta?
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Thank you so much, ma'am, for such an intriguing talk. It was an eye-opener. Like, I represent PISM here. We have an organization that runs school for intellectually disabled kids and adults. And also, we work for children at risk, the kids who are from economically deprived sections. So we are a non-profit organization, and we have been working for them for last 16 years in Lucknow. So we have tried, like, it was very touching that you talked about environment. So we have tried, like, these days we are talking about holistic well-being of the students, like not just the like book stuff, but the holistic physical, mental, spiritual well-being of the students. So we have tried to create a socio spiritual environment, so that we have tried to teach them yoga and meditation along with the state of the art modern techniques. And in the last 1.5 decades,
can you come to the question?
Yeah, sure. Like we have tried to create a spiritual environment, and that has helped students. So we are thinking of creating more. We need more space. We need more construction for our organization. So you were talking about colors and the other environment stuff like lights and all. So can you suggest something that how the construction should be, that these students who need special environment and special care, so we can approach that kind of construction for them in our future projects? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. It's very interesting because I think if we can, inside of our learning spaces, we can give place to more people, on different people with different capacities. We are just going to open the mind of everybody. What about the kind of spaces? That's a reflection we are having. We're doing a lot of work in kindergartens, in babies' environments, and trying to construct environments that can work for babies between 3 months and 3 years old. And somehow that helps you because their brains are so different. A 3 months baby, he can walk, he's going to, what can you construct for him that can work for him and also for the 3 years old baby that's walking and talking? So somehow when you think about that, when you go and check out all the ways we're thinking about the baby's environment, there's a lot of information in the internet. And if you give me your email, I can send you some back information about that help us think also about how can we work spaces so they can work for bigger kids that have disabilities, handicaps, etc. Thank you. So we have a last one.
One more?
Yeah.
Hannah, one more? Okay, that is...
yeah, one more. Yeah, one more. She was waiting, no? Wasn't she? She was waiting. So
Kanya, yeah.
Yeah. From the designs that you have shared, I found that you've used some geometrical shapes that can create some kind of space in the center so that the skylight comes in and various other factors. Like in India, especially if you would have seen the olden houses, we have something called courtyard, where there is an open space, open to sky in the center of the house, huge houses, so that we have ample light, air, ventilation that's coming inside the building. So is it something similar to that concept of creating spaces so that the children get to have all these elements inside their workspace?
So yes and no. Yes, when you see, so I'll go back to this one. So I see it right away, and it's gonna take a second for you to see it. When I show you, I wanted to, this is gonna, normally with this I can check. Yeah, now what I can show you things that I'm talking about. No, the internet is very slow. Anyway, what I was trying to tell you is in the main figure, the one that is just like a square, that is we found the word a second ago. That is it's not an ovoid. Trapezoid. Thank you. The trapezoid, the one that has a hole inside, that's more for getting light and ventilation, because we know that in ecological buildings, that's the way it has to work. In this one, the one that we have here, that is like a star, that is more than a patio, what I call a patio in Spanish. It's a main jar. That's more the one that you are thinking about. Okay, so that's more of your idea that I find perfect, because I think children have to have access to the elements, to rain, mud, etc. Okay, so that's the idea with this one.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to continue because time is ticking, sadly. And so this is a very interesting project for us, because this one, we did build it, and it's inside a building, an existing building in Paris. it's not, sadly, it's not going to be the beautiful Parisian building. No, not at all. It's a 17th building, awful, that had a economic house of, I don't know what. So here, the idea was more, how can we have spaces that have more than one function? Okay, we never think about that. The fact that if kids can transform their space, we can also use it in a 7x3 timing, the space. We could have kids working inside of it, adults working inside of it, more activities. So 7 hours of a day, kids can go and have their classes and work inside of the building. 7 hours a day, we have adults that come have reunions, yoga classes, I don't know. And 7 hours of the day, we have dinner, something else, okay? We never think about spaces in that way. And what that's going to open inside of us is that we're going to think that the space can be adapted to the kids even more, because they're going to have the option of changing the space in their time, okay? So even the more non-traditional spaces tend to be, so this, the first one I showed you, this one that you're seeing, that's a traditional one. This is a less traditional school, the second one that you're seeing. It's in so nice, so beautiful, but it's very rigid. Think about it. It's the way it is. I cannot change it. I have a board in one side of it, okay? It has tables, lockers in other side of it, okay? It's not that I'm saying that that's a problem. It's, I'm always thinking that the way we live today is not the way we're going to live in 10 years when our kids are adults, okay? So we always have to have that in mind. Our spaces and the way we construct them and the way we think about it, the same way as education, it has to be open to the world that's going to come. Because between you and me, we're not living them a very easy world. So they're going to have to work hard to save it. So we have to give them all the chances to be thinking out of the box, to be creative, and to find solutions. And it's not in rigid spaces where you can find that, okay? So in this project, that was the main idea. The main idea was to make, and it was very interesting because it was not our idea. This school is a school that's made so people that are poor, that get less incomes, can go to the school because they can rent the spaces in the time kids are not inside. So in weekends, after school, they can rent, and they have yoga classes, drawing classes, cooking classes. You can go have conference inside the school. You can marry yourself inside the school. That help us a lot to think in another way of how can the environment be adapt to that, help kids think about the way they have their environment, adults, how they manipulate this environment, because it's going to be a very, you can change it a lot. You can change a lot, this kind of environment. So this is a plan of the school. So I'm going to give you 5 seconds. This is what we call atelier. So you can come and you can have different classes. You can have kids that learn how to read, kids that learn how to draw, adults that work Spanish. So each one of the little atelier that you see here, I'll try to show you with my, I don't know, this is working. Oh yeah, now you can see my arrow. This atelier, okay? I'll just give me 1 second because I have to. How can I? Okay, this. So we're back to this one. This atelier and this atelier, they're constructed inside of the main space of the school. And these yellow lines that you can see here are just curtains that you take out of these boxes. And that make that your space is going to work in another way. So this is what we call the atelier composition. This one is what we call the salle polyvalente. It's where you can have yoga, where you can have a conference, when you can have a dinner space, so people can have come and eat here. Okay, so it's exactly the same space. What did I do? I just change the curtains that now you're not seeing and now you're going to see. They disappeared inside these boxes. Okay, here I created 2 spaces and now I just have 1. Okay, and all of the tables go inside of here and inside of here. But so this is the way the space works. This is the real space. And more, it has a big wall that divides us. This is a very big wall that we did in the same material that is going to divide the space. So when you see it, it's kind of a traditional space. Okay, I can move that wall. I can make it bigger or smaller, but I can have this. That's going to come in these lines. So it's going to divide the space in another way. So it's going to change 100% the way I can fill the space. Okay? With colors that are a thing, so they can be engaging. And you can see the lines of where the curtains can go. So it's a traditional space. Nothing new. Windows in one side, closets and stuff on the other side. But the way you adapt it inside, okay? The things you can put inside of it. So this is when it's a Montessori class. They take these boxes, these very big boxes, they can move them. They have little wheels. And they can adapt that to a concert space. Okay, so what I'm trying to tell you is there are other ways of thinking about spaces just by using other kinds of materials that you can move, moving walls. I don't know, the way you sit inside the space, the way you put your furniture inside the space, the fact that you put curtains inside of the space, that can make it rounder, less angular. You have more curves inside of it. Okay, this is a last example of a school we made, and this I like it very much because it's inside of a public school. Okay, half of the time is supposed to be a 3 to 6 Montessori school. No, a 0-3 Montessori school, so babies. The other half of the time is supposed to have adolescents that come and play. So that's once again this idea that spaces can work in a lots of ways. Okay. So this is the first one. This is the same space. This is a big space where adolescents can play. They can all come and play, and all of the material for the babies is hidden in these orange boxes. Okay, plop, plop. Try to see what you're seeing. Check. So this is one of, so I'll give you a second because I know it's longer for you to have. Okay, you have it. So this is one of the walls that we made. Okay, this is when it's for the adolescents, so they can put their stuff. Okay, they can have their own drawings. And this is when I open it and I have it for the baby ones. This is all the Montessori material that comes. So here is for the big ones. Everything's closed. When I open this kind of doors for the babies. So teachers don't have to reconstruct the space. They have it. It's built. You just open it and close it. And this is the way it works. Now, this is the real boxes. And this is when that's when it's closed. So you see nothing. And this is when it's open. So even in this space here, so I'm gonna give you some time so you can come back to the, in this space here, okay, that you can see adolescents can put their stuff, because this is going to be protective. When you open it, you cannot see it anymore. So they can intervene their own space and put their own stuff and put their own drawings, because when I close it, I don't see them anymore. So that's not going to affect my babies. And because everything's it's with wheels, I can have the little furniture open like this, more open, more closed. Okay. I can have it doing this kind of figure, or I could just adapt it more. This one at the near the green wall, you can close it more. So you have a tiny space here where they can be more secure, or you can open it all the way like it's open now. Okay. So these are new, once again, everybody's getting tired. You're sleeping now. So Spanish, once again. New ways of thinking education. So now I'm just gonna do some brainwashing. I'm gonna give you a lot of spaces that are not our spaces. We didn't create them. Most of them, we didn't make them. But how can we get inspired of what they do in other kind of spaces? This is a museum, the first one that you're seeing. This is a home, the second one that you're going to see in 1 second. That's the magic of internet. So I can drink some tea. Okay. Getting there. Oh yeah, perfect. This one is an apartment in Barcelona. And the magic of this apartment in Barcelona is that it has wheels that you can move the furniture. Okay.
Is that one? Parts of it, like there are these floor plans that Mr. talks about.
Okay, what about the next one? This is a library. How can we inspire ourselves from libraries? They don't have halls anymore, so they cannot walk through these spaces. because what Mukta was no, who was saying that at the beginning of the talking? When you have halls, you have problems of circulation. This is more of a hall, but you can sit and work in computers. This can answer the question of the person that was talking. This one is, so I'll give you 1 second. So it will appear in your Zoom, the blue. Okay, perfect. So this is how can you construct different ways of sitting and looking. I really want to do a presentation and I want all of my class. I can do it this way with more transforming spaces. I could do it with stairs that they can use. Okay, this is a space, a working space. So what they're discovering, because they're always more in advance in things that are not with schools, because schools have less money. But in working spaces, we have a lot of examples of how can you interact and create new ways of being with one another, just by transforming the way you sit and you hear to one another. So they have kitchens inside of the school. They have sitting spaces where you can draw. You can modify your space, moving these blocks. The next one is one showing you the different ways of sitting, and how can you have people in different attitudes. Okay. And what about transforming with the way we have windows? Okay. What about the next one? This is real multi-sitting. How can they sit in different ways? Okay. And this is working spaces. Can you see it? I have to give you another second. So you can see it. Now you can see it. Okay, and what about the next one? This is a library. How can we put plants and nature inside of schools? This is one of the schools we did. And those are real plants. If you do it, please put real plants. Don't put dead plants or fake plants. How could you transform and use spaces that can open and close? This one can be open and close, and they can draw. This is the blackboard. This is an orange board. And what about the playing spaces? This is a Japanese. You cannot see it. I'll give you 5 seconds because I think, okay, this is the one. This is a Japanese architect and he does so fun work. And this is just incredible. And I know that we cannot construct it here in Paris and in France because it's too dangerous. So that's another point. What do we think about security? what are we protecting them of? Can we construct this kind of places? Look at this little girl. She's so happy. You're gonna see it. And this is thinking about spaces with colors. How can they transform the way this school? This is a school in the north of Paris that I didn't do. Even this sleeping spaces, can we build like night skies so they can sleep? And this is, everybody knows this one. This is in Stockholm. And if we get more inspired by nature, maybe we could do better spaces. Thank you, everybody. Okay, so I have some messages here.
There's one by Rahul. I think that's, we have to start with that maybe.
Yeah, super. I'm a little bit lost. Can you read them to me? Because
he's asked about local material.
Yeah. So
Rahul, can we go for Rahul's question, please?
Yeah, sure. Rahul is actually my husband, and I'm using I'm in his ID. So my name is Maya.
Okay.
So I wanted to know if the use of materials, in buildings.
Yeah.
The importance of it, because the children are going to be in a space, and they're going to be interacting with the material as well. Passively, they're going to be taking in passively the kind of material that the building is built on, and therefore especially when you think about if we are going to be using more cement and steel, and more of materials made from plastic, and what are they imbibing, versus if the material really came locally from more earth-based materials, and so the importance of that in a learning space, and how
Maya, go on.
And also the way, and the kind of because the building, it's in the word itself. The building is a kind of process, right? So it does not necessarily start from the drawing board and ends when the inauguration finishes. It's a process, like the people using the building make it habitable, and so therefore the kind of construction process that goes into the building as well, how that also makes that also informs the building process, like are we using more of mechanized equipments to make the building, or are we going to be using more hand let's say more hand-based labor for the construction. So all of that isn't it going to be part of the building, and isn't that going to inform children? And especially in this day and age, as you rightly said, children are going to be inheriting a more difficult world than probably you and me did, and so the importance of all of this with respect to climate change, biodiversity loss, and all of that. So the linkage of all of this to the kind of materials that's going to be used, and yeah, and
Yeah, we have to be, one of the things I always say, I did some classes to architect students, and I told them, be honest. So please, when you build something, it has to be honest with itself and with people that are gonna live inside of it. What is that supposed to mean? Please use real wood. Please, if you're going to use plastic, I don't like plastic, that I can see that it's plastic. Be honest with the people that are living inside of your building, that I can see the way it's built, that I can see the materials, because as you say very well, kids are going to be inspired of that. If I try to put plastic wood, they do it a lot here in Paris. So they do floors that are in that sort of plastic wood. That's not honesty. That's not honest. How do you want them to react to that? How do you want them to learn of the material, of the materiality of the world, if you don't give that to them? So then you can go to a more profound way of thinking and think, how was the building made? My problem with that is that I tend to prefer renovation to construction, because I think it's more ecological. So when I do renovation, I just keep the building that I have in my hands, because it's easier to destroy it and build a new one that is more honest, that use real materials, that has better ecological footprint, etc. But what about all the materials that the other one used, all the energy it had inside? So I tend to prefer to renovate, to use buildings that exist and try to transform them to new uses than to build new buildings. So that gives me a frame that it's smaller when I'm willing to give how it's constructed, because in most of the work I do in Paris, there's existing buildings that were constructed in the 1970s or in the 1800s, and I do just with them. And I think you have to just do with them and try to be honest and tell kids, this is the way it was. This is the way we constructed 50 years from now or 200 years from today. Okay?
Yep. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alvika Jha, would you like to articulate that question in the chat?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Yeah.
Anna, it's in the chat.
Sorry.
Sorry, hello?
Yes.
Yeah.
You able to hear me?
Yes, Malvika.
Yeah, hi, Anna. This is Malvika.
Yeah, hi.
From India, and I'm based out of Pune, and I work with an philanthropic organization, Tata Trust. And I have been working with the children for many years now, more than 15 years, and mostly have worked with, what should I say, government schools and preschools, government preschools and government schools. And when I was thinking about it, so something kept coming to my mind. One thing is that the spaces where I go, there is no space. And the spaces are so small, and you still see that when specifically in preschools, basically when teacher is really trying hard to bring them under her control, because they are so curious and they want to know everything what is going around. And then I was thinking that is sometimes what happens even in the school, for that matter. Of course, in rural schools, we do see that there are slightly bigger spaces than the urban schools, government schools.
Yeah.
However, when we think about, if the teacher is not thinking about activity-based learning or activities to be, conducted with the children. However big the space is, they are not thinking about the space. So somehow, if it gets connected, not somehow actually, it does get connected to what is your pedagogy, what is your methodology, whether the child is really at the center, or maybe you and child together are at the center. Sometimes it really, whenever I have talked with the teachers, it has become slightly pressurizing for the teacher also. Why are you not thinking about us? We are with so much of constraints that we are working in the system. So I always think about that we have to put both of them at the center and think about spaces. So how do you think about this? I mean, I know that you started with this whole talk about the brain development and how it is important to think how the learning is going to happen with connection with the brain. So when these spaces are so small, how do we think about learning, and think that while it's really loud thinking, Anna, that when we are thinking about training of teachers, we do think about change, thinking about how do we train them in the pedagogy which focuses on activities, conducting activities. And do we have to really focus more on that? What kind of space do you have, and how do you go to use it? Maybe the focus needs to be really shuffled up a bit when I'm listening to you. And have you thought about it? Have you tried something like this? Would be very interesting to know. And my second question, I will quickly summarize it. I'm taking too much of time. I'm sorry. The Indian schools also have another big issue, is that they are multi-grade. So there are not one class is there. There may be 4 or 5 year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4 are clubbed together, and there is one single teacher is trying to handle different levels of or different grades of students. How do we think about these spaces, where teacher is able to breathe as well as children are also learning? So that's my question. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. I work with the UNICEF, the Comoro Islands, and one of the problems, I was so impressed because the spaces were tiny. Like I was like, my goodness, I don't have pictures of that. Next time I'll try to put them. And spaces were just like, I don't know, 20 square meters for 40 kids. It was crazy. I have never seen that. They were all sitting and they were all one against another, and they're not very big. In Comoro, people are more small, but it was tiny. Adults couldn't move, kids couldn't move. And I think that's a problem. I think that's a problem in what sense? In the sense that that's what they have. What can I do with that? I cannot change it. They don't have the money, and probably it's the same problem with you. And I have it in Paris sometimes. They don't have the money to have bigger spaces, so I just have to do with space. Limit for. I think that 2 square meters per kid is the limit. That's what I want. That's what I think is the ideal. Not the ideal, this lowest limit. The smallest school can be 2 square meters per kid.
The minimum.
The minimum, thank you. The minimum. But I can always get it. And then sometimes I'm like, trying to do small interventions, things that you can put down, put up, that you can move, trying to work more in the floor, because floor working will occupy less space, will be more dynamic. And so that's for the first one, but it's always somehow a problem. But I learned with a school we made that it's very, very small, that sometimes I didn't show it to you because I don't have pictures of that school. That's very small, and they have like 20 babies between 1.5 years and 3 years. And I learned with that school that the attitude of the adult, the way the children worked, changes everything. So I was thinking about that today when I was rereading my lecture, and I have 2 dogs. Now I'm sitting, so they're sitting very calmly. You cannot hear them, but every time I walked to get a cup of tea, they walk with me and they start moving. And that made me think about this teacher. She always got very mad at me because I always go and observe in classes. And she was, Anna, you get inside of my class and you get down and you walk very slow. You get almost try to walk in 4 legs, because kids are going to move more, are going to occupy the space more if they have an adult that's moving around all the time. It's the same for my dogs. If I move around all the time, they want to move around with me. It's neurons that are working that way. The kids need to learn from us. So the way I am, my attitude in class will help them be calmer, work with the smaller spaces. And she told me I love small spaces because they structure them more. They're closer, they're smaller, so they tend less to run around. Yeah. If she's not running around, if she's not walking around, and she was never walking around. She was always sitting in a tiny chair as low as she could to not disturb the space of the brain. Okay, so that was the first one. The second question was about, I forgot.
It was about the multigrade,
multigrade
classroom.
I love multigrade. I am 100% for multigrade. And I love the fact that in India you have it normally. That's the way it is.
Yeah.
Why? Because that tends to take away the power from the teacher. Because when you have multigrades, you cannot work with everybody all the time. You have to leave them alone so they can construct their thinking. And I'm convinced that we do have to give teachers more an insight of the space. We don't give them that at all. They don't have that kind of classes. Draw your space. Try to think about it. How are you going to organize it? Okay? What kind of seating spaces do you want? And if you do a person to class organization where you want to be in the front of the room, you do it, but you do it thinking about it. That's the way you wanted it to be. It's not that it's imposed to you. And we don't give them that. They don't know how to draw their classes. They don't know how to pick their chairs. So that's a lot of work. It could be so nice to have that for teachers in their educational curriculum.
Right. Yeah. Thanks.
You're welcome. A pleasure.
Anna, there's one more question about the square meters per child. 2 square meters is the physical space for the child, but if you consider, say, learning materials and other areas of what we need in a school or a class, what would you say would be the square meters per child?
No, it's 2 square meters with the material.
With the material, okay.
Yeah. I give, in Montessori classes, I give 3 or 4 square meters, but I put the toilets inside the class and the kitchen inside the class because it's a house. Because it's what I was saying in the last one. You don't want to give them too much space.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be lost. They need to be contained.
Yes.
the mom, it's not far away. They need to be content. They were in a space like this one. So you cannot just open it up. No, you have to limit it. You have to divide it. You have to these small spaces inside of your big space. And you have to try it not to be very big. If it's very big, you're going to have trouble because they're going to start running. They're going to have screaming, talking with each other.
Lovely. What she said was nice. She said you have to be honest with them. So, which means it did not really reflect the photos that she showed.
Any questions? Yeah. Anything you want to discuss?
Getting messages from 3-4 people saying
that's the message.
Anna, most questions we can take?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
I was thought you were asking them. I'm happy to answer if I can.
Dr. Anandraman, you want to go? Your question about no choice, etc.
Yes, thanks. Anna, a child who comes to a learning environment doesn't have a choice on the space that is made available. Nor does the teacher have a choice on the space that is made available for the teaching experience. So how do they, what is the important factor that need to be provided to make them accept the teaching space and make the best use of it?
It's the reflection. It's it's a little bit of what I was saying in the last question. You have to give them the space to think about it. Even if they cannot change it, even if it's that way, you can always do something with your space. But to do something with your space, you have to think about it. Okay? You just not have, if you just go inside of it and you just use it the way it is, that's,
yes.
If you want to use it the way it is, I have no problem with that. But think about it. Think about the kind of space you have. Why is it that way? What is that going to produce in the kids that you have in front of you? What is that producing in you? What is that tickling in your brain? Okay? So I think where we are missing something is that we're not teaching teachers to think about their spaces. We don't give them that. They think about pedagogy, they think about the kids, they think about the books they're going to use, the materials or not, computers or not, but they're never going to think about the spaces. And I was telling you, this is a chair with 3 feet, okay? Yeah. You need the third one, 3 legs. You need the third one. It's not going to, it's the only way it's going to work. If I take one, it's going to fail. And the third one is the space.
Got it. Thank you. Got it.
You're welcome.
Got it. Beautiful. Can I make a comment? I liked your initial explanations about the generation of the neurons in the early childhood. And that is such an important concept in psychology, which is coming in terms of what is known as emotional intelligence.
Exactly.
And it is far more important than IQ, because IQ can only get you somewhere, but emotional intelligence, empathy, everything takes you beyond somewhere. Yeah. I'm so glad that you brought this important aspect, which is so relevant today in every aspect of life. Beautiful.
Thank you.
It's amazing.
It's so important because we tend to think about things. Everybody wants the solution. Anna, tell me, which color should I use? But if you know where am I coming from? Why red? Why pink? You're gonna do it yourself. You don't need Anna to tell you, oh yeah, better do it in blue, because you're gonna think about the brain and the way the brain's working. That's I never know how far away should I put the introduction part, because it's the one I love. I could do it for hours and hours, but I'm always scared.
It came out beautifully, precisely, and at the right way. I think you did a wonderful job on that. And
thank you.
But the most important thing is to realize that how it figures in emotional intelligence and later life.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Super.
Thank you.
Bravo. Bravo.
Gracias.
Gracie? Gracie?
Yes. Hi, I'm Gracie.
Hi, Gracie.
It's a wonderful opportunity to listen to you. So I'm just, I just wanted to understand one thing. In your conversation, we spoke about the space. We saw the space and the lighting, the different colors and other things. And also that space, one picture where you share where there can be dividers, it's a makeshift arrangement kind. Now, what about the sound? Will it not be, there will not be, voice over to the next class, or how is that?
Very interesting.
How is that? How can we arrest that sound, or how is that done well in that space? I don't know if I said it rightly. I'm not able to.
Yeah, perfect.
You understood?
Yeah, perfectly.
Thank you.
So it's very interesting, because if you're right, I didn't talk about sound, and that's another factor in the construction of spaces. I did a conference a while ago in Barcelona where we talk a lot about sound, because I had only teachers in front of me, and teachers are always so concerned. Kids are so loud and blah, blah, blah. So we talk like an hour just sound, and how can we fix that, and should we fix it, and blah, 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 blah. And I finished my conference. I'm not very sensitive to sound. It doesn't bother me, so I'm not a good... my reaction is not always very good to teachers, because they're very sensitive to sound in general. I'm not. So I had the chance this year to do some Spanish classes in the school. They called me and they told me, Anna, do you want to do some Spanish classes? And I was, okay. And I did it. And it was very nice, because that's a very nice way of having the teacher's point of view that I don't get to have that much. And it was very funny, because my class was like, everybody was talking and everybody was walking, and they were all like crazy people, but they all learned to talk in Spanish. They had such a good level at the end of the year. So all the other teachers were not very happy with me, because it was so loud, so loud. You can just not imagine how loud it was. But nobody can come and say, Anna, stop that, blah, 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 because they were talking in Spanish. They wrote in Spanish. This was their first year. They speak French and English, and this was the third language. So their Spanish were inexistent. And at the end of the year, they were talking in Spanish, writing in Spanish. They did poems in Spanish. So I'm not sensitive to that. And when I finished my Barcelona conference, I put them the sound of a forest. And it's very loud. Very, 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 very loud. So that was just to tell them, sometimes we as adults, we just have to zen, do some yoga, and just assume that that's life. Life is loud. That's the first one. The second one is that we did a school and we could not go up to the ceiling, so the class were open. Everybody could hear each other. And at the beginning, the director of the school told us, no, but we have to do something else. It was impossible. No solution. That was the way it was. We did it that way. 2 years later, she came to me and she said, thank you, Anna, because the kids can hear each other. They're more conscious of the sound and they tend to control themselves. In the first school she had, everything was so close. They could not hear each other. So they were screaming and very loud and blah, blah. But this time they could hear the other ones and they were bothered by the loudiness of the other kids. So they made efforts. Okay? It's always how much that can affect you or not. I don't know if this is the good answer. But we could talk like hours.
Makes a lot of sense for me.
We could talk hours and hours about sound and the way we can work with that. Some people say that if you put music in a certain level, that then too helps them to control. It's like the fact that you can hear someone else. Okay? Thank you for asking that.
Thank you.
I think Priya is raising her hand.
Yeah. Hi, Anna. Firstly, thank you so much. You give me so much to think about.
Super.
My mind is just going round and round there trying to possibilities. But
that's the idea. Bravo.
Well, now I want to build a school. Someone's got to build a school with me. All right. So I just wanted to ask you one question about when you talked about materials, and I totally agree, you know, the olden style of working with natural bricks, woods, all of that is absolutely the preferred best way. And we also in Montessori always believe that we must present to children the natural materials. I mean, even the materials we keep in the classroom, we don't allow plastics and things like that. However, with also the new generation of waste that's, you know, the things that are wasted, and there's a lot of effort now being put into recycling, using these materials, waste materials in buildings, that way kind of cutting down on the landfills and on the ocean pollution. I just wanted to know your view on that, on using those materials, and or if you have any experience with that or anything.
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful way. That's why I cannot be so rigid with this idea of not putting plastics inside the buildings, because there's a lot of constructions where we use plastic inside of the walls. So we can construct very good walls and that plastic is not going in the oceans. We use wood that it's secondhand wood that they're going to throw away. So we can construct with that in Montessori the little, yeah. So when we use wood that is used in construction to keep the walls. When you do construction in cemento. Oh my goodness, my words in French and Spanish and English, everything's. When you construct walls, you need to sustain them before they get hard.
Like the scaffolding.
Okay, exactly. And this wood, they're just going to throw it away. I use it in Montessori classes to do the shelves. So I think that's why I try not to be so strict with what I say. I think you have to be open. Sometimes we use plastic in the floor, and it's a plastic that is recycled from bottles. I prefer that because that bottle is not going to go to the ocean, and I'm not going to. You know what I mean? It's just. We have to show them another ways of living in this world, and maybe it's not just everything has to be in wood and bamboo, and maybe that's not the way it is. It's just, I had this beautiful discussion with an Indian person that wanted me to be vegetarian. And it was so lovely because he was really convinced that I had to be vegetarian. And I'm not vegetarian. And so I don't want to be rude and say, no, that I don't, sorry. So I just told her, no, it was a guy, I told him, but you want me to take take all the plants, because I was supposed to eat in a way, very Indian way. And I was like, so you want me to take all the plants and plant them in Paris? Climate is not going to work that well. You know what I mean? So what I'm trying to say, it's just keep open-minded. Just, I'm not trying to give you a line. I'm just going to try to give you a set of ideas, and you just pick up them and open mind. Think out of the box.
Thinking. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Anna, for taking the trouble and making the effort to do this presentation for us and hold the discussions.
It was my pleasure, Anita, like always.
Yeah. And it became a very special occasion.
Yeah, it was perfect.